Check. There. They don't pay them. Holy smokes, a lot of people. Coach, thank you so much.
What a great turnout.
Yeah, that's great. They know they're in the right place here. You know, it's great to be back, and Coach, you know what? It's a great day for the race. You know what race? Hey, Hoover, you still got it after all these years.
Well, can I just point out one more thing?
Yeah.
I wanted to point out. On that picture up there, that was your senior year. We ended up with only 11 seniors, but the seniors were very, very dedicated. And I like to have things orderly. And you notice all the guys in the front row have their left hand on their right wrist. Just the way I instructed them. Except for one. That tells us a lot right there.
Coach,
that great attitude back there.
You know what? That's how come I was named the most improved player, because that was the first time I had the right finger up all day. Coach, you forgot one thing in the introduction. You forgot to mention that I am now a certified grief counselor. You see, I am used to dealing with a lot of pain and agony. I've covered Minnesota professional sports for the past 30-some years. I knew that would work here. You know, and I was very honored when Kurt Metzer told me that you were going to do the introduction today, Coach, because I'm going to talk today about impact and living a life of significance. And I don't know anybody in this community who maybe had more impact on this community than Bill Collar did, Coach Collar. Always been my coach. You know, he talked about that Come to Jesus meeting that we had back in my junior year, and it was a Come to Jesus meeting. And what I heard out of that, he said, Joe, you've got great leadership skills, you're going to do great things, you can do this, you can do that. And the only thing I heard out of that was, he believed in me. Coach Collar believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And that changed the arc of what I've done in my life, without a doubt, that moment. And I know I see Bill Patson, Randy Reed, and Greg Lansking, and Kazanowski, and the Brown family here, and I know you did the same for a lot of those people too. So, Coach, it's very appropriate that you did. I appreciate that. I also appreciate the warm welcome. You guys cheered. Do you guys realize that I covered the Minnesota Vikings?
What's that?
Yeah. Do you guys realize that I actually hope the Vikings win, because if the Vikings go to the Super Bowl, I go to the Super Bowl? You guys realize I'm probably not going to live that long? That's probably the truth right there. I also want to say that my dad was talked into coming to Seymour, moving to Seymour, running the American Legion in 1961 by Babe Seidel. And that was the best thing that ever happened to the Schmit family, that we had Seymour. My sister Carla and Katie are here, and my brother Jim is here. We were pretty lucky. We had a great family, great parents who, when I think about what our parents really taught us, it kind of broke down into this. They taught us to work hard and play harder. It really kind of makes sense. We had those opportunities to play, you had those opportunities to have fun. Make sure you take them. That's what our parents did. Carla probably sold you a ticket to get in there tonight. She was charging $10. Everybody else got charged $5. She made some money. Always the entrepreneur. So, coming back here, the memories kind of flood in. And Coach Collar, I don't know if you remember this story or not. 1972, I was a backup center on the Seymour High School football team. I weighed about 150 pounds soaking wet. Homecoming weekend, our starting center couldn't play that game, so I got thrust into the starting lineup at 150 pounds against Baronet. And anyway, back in those days, the coach would have the center run out, and when the introductions came, run out to center field, run out to midfield with the football, put the football down, and everybody else who got introduced would line up and run a play into the sideline. So here they go. I'm nervous as heck. My first start, homecoming. They go, number 51, starting at center, Joe Schmit. Collar throws me the football. I go running out. The band's lined up this way. The cheerleaders are out. Everybody's cheering. I got to the 20-yard line, and I fumbled the football. And as I went to pick up the football, I kicked it into the band. And I literally heard the audience laugh out loud. It was like a Saturday Night Live skit. I would have gone viral if it was possible to go viral back then. It's a very true story. I also can remember being in this very room. 1975, I was sitting right back over there in that corner. The Lions Club Awards banquet night. And it was my senior year. I've been coming to this banquet every year since I was in 7th grade. And every year, my friends would all go up and win awards. And I was thinking to myself that night, I kept slinking down in my chair, slinking down in my chair. Everybody else was winning awards. I never won an award. Most valuable player, most improved player, all conference. It didn't matter. I never won anything. And I was having a Joe Schmit pity party. I was slinking down in my chair feeling sorry for myself. Why the heck did I do all that? Why did I work? Why did I play all those sports? And it came to the last award of the night, the Senior Scholarship Athlete. And the MC says we had 2 award winners. Well, it was pretty obvious who the winners were going to be. Bill Patza, who won state championship in track, and Jeff Brown, also a state champion in track. As a matter of fact, those 2 guys, think about this for a second. This was back before there were any classes in Wisconsin. Those 2 guys, Bill Patza and Jeff Brown, almost won the state track championship by themselves. They came within, 2 points, Bill, of winning the state championship themselves against all the big schools from Milwaukee, Green Bay, and whatever. Well, when they announced the first guy, it was Bill Patza. And the second name was Joe Schmit. See, I think the committee already knew that Brownie had a full ride scholarship. so Brownie didn't need the $250 as much as I did. But when they announced my name, I went from having a pity party to being embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I was having this pity party for myself, thinking it wasn't worth it. And I remember later looking at the trophy and realized, you know what, the trophy really didn't mean that much. What meant a lot was the journey. And what I learned on that journey, the lessons I learned, how to win, how to lose, how to be a good teammate, that there were no shortcuts. I've got friendships that have lasted my entire life because of what we put into football and wrestling and baseball and all the other things around school. It was the journey that counted. Too many times we get caught up in the destination. So tonight I'm going to take you on a journey. And hopefully it will be a journey of impact. Now I've been a sports anchor for over 40 years. Matter of fact, when I started, I think most people had a 12-inch black and white TV. Now they got 90-inch high-definition TVs. Back then I used to use pancake makeup, now I use spackling. That's how much I started studying people who make an impact. And I started studying teams and organizations that had world-class cultures. What set them apart from everybody else? And I've written a couple of books on it. The books are out in the lobby, Silent Impact and the Impact Blueprint. And I figured out that we make an impact in everything we do, in everything we say, how we act, how we react, what our attitude is, what our body language is. It all leaves a mark. It all leaves a mark. And that's why we all want to be more aware and intentional with the impact that we have. And that's what I hope we take away tonight, figuring out some tactics and strategies so we can be more aware and intentional with the impact we have. Because when you're an impact player, you make everybody in the field of play better in sports. When you're an impact player in life, you make people around you better. You're happier, you're healthier, you're more productive, and you have deeper, more meaningful relationships. I covered a track coach at the University of Minnesota by the name of Roy Griak. Now, Roy Griak was a long-time successful coach at Minnesota. He coached Big Ten champs, he coached national champs, he coached athletes who made it to the Olympics. Roy retired and he stayed involved in the program as a volunteer. And as Roy was in his 90s, Roy was still volunteering, and Roy got sick, and as he was getting ready to pass on, I started reading the tributes to Roy on his Caring Bridge site. And I recognized a lot of the names. They were the Big Ten champs, the national champs, they were the Olympians. But something struck me when I was reading these tributes. Not one of them said, I would have never made it to the Olympics if you weren't my coach. Remember that Big Ten title we won? Not one of them. They all said things like, I'm a better dad today because you were in my life. I'm a better husband today because you were in my life. I just closed the biggest business deal of my life using Roy Griak 101. And it got me to thinking, Roy Griak lived a life of significance. Not because of the trophies he had in his trophy case or the champions he coached. Roy Griak lived a life of significance because of the impact he had on other people. That's the way impact works. Let me ask you a question. If there were a going away party tonight, where you work, or maybe where you worked, or maybe an organization that you belong to, think of a group of people. If there were a going away party tonight, who would the most people show up for? Think about that for a second. We did research on companies and organizations, small, medium, and as large as Target Corporation itself, looking for these individuals and trying to figure out what traits they had that made them this kind of person. And we didn't always find this person in the usual place. It wasn't always the person who sat in the corner office. Sometimes the person who had the biggest impact was the person who cleaned the corner office. But in each and every case, this person had three things in common: purpose, persistence, and passion. Purpose, they aligned their actions with their values. Persistence, they were persistent in their positivity, they were persistent in their preparation, and they were great team players. And last but not least is passion. They were the heart and soul of the operation because they simply cared. They not only cared about you as a coworker or a friend, they cared about you as a human being. They wanted to be there to share in your successes, and maybe more importantly, they wanted to be there to support you when things went wrong. So you put those three together, purpose, persistence, and passion, and you get that impact player. So tonight, I want us all to think a little bit differently about the impact that we have on the world and how we can all maybe make an impact every day. And it will accumulate over the years. I want to see how smart Seymour is today. On the count of three, because I want us to all think a little bit differently. On the count of three, say out loud what color a yield sign is. 1, 2, 3.
Yellow.
They've been red and white since 1974. You see, sometimes we have things in our head that maybe aren't exactly right, so we need to take a little different angle at it so we can break new ground. I was fortunate enough to cover a baseball player by the name of Joe Mauer. If you're a baseball fan, you probably know who Joe Mauer is. He retired to the Twins after 15 years with the Twins, over 2,000 career hits. He will go into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown in either 2024 or 2025. Joe had a sensational career. Well, 21 years ago, Joe was a senior at Cretin-Derham Hall High School in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, in every high school, there's a lunchroom. You got the lunchroom right behind us in Seymour. In every lunchroom, there's a cool table. Wherever Joe Mauer sat 21 years ago was the cool table at Cretin-Derham Hall High School. He was simply the best high school athlete the state of Minnesota has ever produced. He was all-state in basketball, all-state in football, and he was an all-state baseball player, named the Gatorade Player of the Year nationally in football and baseball. That's how sensational Joe was. Joe was the first round pick of the Minnesota Twins. So you got to imagine, Joe was the big man on campus 21 years ago. Joe was tall, good looking, and soon to be very rich. I'd take any of those three for 10 minutes. Every day after Joe's 4th hour class, Joe would walk a young student who was blind to the lunchroom and invite him to sit down at his table. Every day. And I asked Joe, I said, Joe, why did you do that? And Joe's answer was very simple, but yet it was profound. He said, because it was the right thing to do. The right thing to do. I think you could say Joe was aligning his actions with his values. It was his purpose. And when you do your purpose, you can make an impact. So I started thinking, who else did this have an impact on? So I found 7 guys who sat around that table every day with Joe Mauer and Mike Hawley 21 years ago. And then the story started to come in. They said that Joe would walk Mike to his next class once lunch was over. By the end of the first quarter, the guys at that table would fight over who got to walk Mike to his next class. Wednesdays was pizza day at Cretin-Derham Hall. And Mike would invariably spill some crumbs on his clothing, some pizza sauce on his chin or his cheek, And Joe Muller would nonchalantly grab a napkin, wipe them off, brush them off, and get him ready for his next class. By the end of the first quarter, they were all doing this. These are high school kids, the most selfish creatures on God's green earth. But Joe was having an impact, and the impact he had was real, it was powerful, it was profound, it was contagious, and it lasted a long, long time. I call it silent impact. We make our biggest impressions, but we're not trying to be impressive. Let's say it again. We make our biggest impressions, but we're not trying to be impressive. And we make an impact. It can be positive or it can be negative. And it happens in every single phase of your life. As a parent or a grandparent, you take your 13-year-old son or grandson to the amusement park, and you look up at the prices, and 12 and under is $25, and 13 and above is $50. You turn to your 13-year-old and you say, "You're 12 today." Now, we probably have all done that in some form or fashion. I'm guilty of that myself. But for $25, you just sold out on integrity. For $25, you just had a negative, silent impact. That's why we all have to be so careful about the impact we have, because it can be negative too, and it can last for a long, long time. So, as I was working with a bunch of different teams and companies and organizations, I tried to come up with ways, some exercises that we can do to help people take their game to the next level. So what I came up with were impact resolutions. Impact resolutions are a little bit like New Year's resolutions, except different. New Year's resolutions, you're gonna exercise more, you're gonna call your mom, you're gonna do all this kind of stuff. And if you're like me, by January 15th, you're already blowing it. Impact resolutions are different. You plot out the next 6 months or the next year. Every month you pick a different value or a trait that you're gonna concentrate on. And that becomes your impact resolution. And what I do is I put a little sticky note up in the mirror in the bathroom. So the first thing I see in the morning and the last thing I see at night is my impact resolution, so I keep it top of mind. And right now I've got the word focus up there. Focus, I've got to keep my focus. I got a lot going on right now. It's easy to get distracted today, so focus. So there are other things. You might have patience up there. You might have understanding up there. Whatever it is, plot out your next 6 months. And it really, really works. I'm going to make this a little interactive today because you've got some homework and everything by the time you're done. Does anybody think of a trait that would make you better at making an impact? Just raise your hand and you can yell it out or something. Just what's a value that would help you be better at making an impact? Positivity, absolutely. We're going to be talking about positivity a lot later. People want to be around positive people. Anybody else? Honesty. Honesty, who said that? Honesty, yeah. Honesty is without a doubt. Because once you lose your integrity, it's hard to get it back. I have a friend of mine who is a #1 sales guy in the country in the thing he sells. And I said to him, I said, what's been the key to your success? He said, well, first of all, you got to be honest, but the second thing is sincerity. And once I learned how to fake sincerity, sales were easy. Anybody else?
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm, absolutely. Enthusiasm. People want to be around people who give you energy, not people who suck energy out of you. Enthusiasm. Anybody else? Yes?
Better listener.
Better listener. You know why? Why is listening important?
Because you learn.
That's right. Well, listen. You listen with your eyes and not your ears. Because you can't be on your phone. You can't be on your computer listening. And the other thing about listening is you have to learn, you need to listen to learn. Many of us listen to respond. Listen to learn rather than respond. We have an old journalist that he just passed away. He was 100 years old, a guy by the name of Sid Hartman. And whenever I would talk to Sid, he would never listen to you. He was always looking around to see if somebody was more important. And I was like, it gave me a complex. But one day he's on the radio and he was talking about some guy who died, and he said, well, that guy smoked like a fish. Which I thought means he drank like a chimney. That must have been what it was. That must have been what it was. Impact can last a long, long time. What you do today can last forever. And just to show you how long River was designated as Energy City in Minnesota.